Hey, deserving listeners, Brandan and Mary, 90 Day Fiancé. Let's see what happens.
Really push him to a limit for him to snap and get blow up or raise his voice or something.
Right. What could Mary possibly do to Brandan that would make him call her some of those other words that he admitted saying? I still haven't gotten an answer to that.
Right, yeah.
Do you guys want to talk about the last incident?
Okay, they've been talking for a bit here, and there seems to be a lot of fighting about money. I don't know if it's true or not, but there's statements that she will be coercive to him around money. Now, on some level, it makes sense if he's not contributing, but it sounds like it goes beyond that and maybe even predated him even going to the Philippines regarding that. I don't know, but also that he, in those moments, will call her a scammer and feel like her love is conditional on him actually providing money, which of course doesn't feel good, or he withholds money, or there's a lot of money issues. And for me and many of the people I know, I grew up in relative privilege than Mary did, and so for me, it's hard for me to understand the kind of franticness or terror around money and money security and money problems. And also, I don't live in her town or her society, so I don't know how desperate it can be. In some communities, you're just a days away from starvation or being kicked out of your house or just losing everything, and there's no safety net, so that can happen. I imagine that money and making sure that the people are producing money would be a very emotional thing and a very important thing. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if, for some people in those situations, the primary factor of their connection, it has to do with money, because money is so fundamental to survival. So you could see that happen, especially if it goes through generations, right?
This is where the confusion comes in, is he wasn't upset. So instead of just turning it down, he turned it off and went outside to listen to music on his phone. He wasn't upset at all.
Because he looks upset. He slammed the controller of his PS5.
Okay, so now she's crying. And yeah, I just have to hope that these things aren't happening very often. The way they talk, this seems like an almost daily occurrence, which is just not a happy situation.
When that gets to a boiling point, they do not know how to handle it. His instinct is to leave. She doesn't want him to leave, and then it just becomes this huge thing.
I feel like he's defending his son. He doesn't know what's going on. I'm holding my baby. He's yelling at me while I'm holding my baby.
My goodness. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. He seems like such a nice person on camera, but he sounds like an absolute monster, honestly.
Yeah, she does.
What do you think of Mary's social media? I've seen some of her videos, and they're pretty provocative.
I mean, I think there is some double standards in that aspect. She doesn't want me talking to other girls, and she gets insecure or jealous of other girls, but she's also...
Okay, so there was some scenes in which they talked about the jealousy thing, and I was reminded about just how bad it was, and also everyone attests, including the mother, including Brandon's mom, everyone attests to the fact that Mary is a lot better now. Mary exhibited a lot of shame. She said, so often when at the reunions, when they will show clips from the season and the individuals in question will just be in denial, or they won't say anything, or they'll get defensive. But with these two, they're seemingly genuinely ashamed or guilty or feel bad, and Mary was as well. She's like, she did say she hated herself. I don't know if something's lost in translation there, but it's possible she meant that. And she said, she's so insecure, and she was jealous because she thought at any moment she was going to lose him because, of course, the traumas that she's been through. And she doesn't approve of the behavior in the past. She feels bad about it. And yeah. So she must have been in a constant state of anxiety, and it certainly looked that way, you know. It's interesting because so many other couples actually operate like this, where they are super jealous, like with Gino and Jasmine, right? But so few of those people will exhibit the vulnerability and the truth behind those things the way that these two do. There's a talk about them going to therapy. The mom was really pressuring them, and you know, of course, everyone's agreeing with that. And Tim actually said that he's seen some jealous people before, but he's never seen someone as jealous as Mary was, which I think that, I mean, I've seen jealouser people than that clinically, but I remember thinking, I was like, I don't think we've ever seen jealousy on this level and controlling behavior on this level. We've seen something that kind of looked like it, Gino and Jasmine, but we've never seen anything like this. This is like really extreme. I mean, he was at church and he can't even turn his head. I mean, my goodness. So Mary was able to admit that that wasn't okay, and there's something wrong there. So they're a weird contrast that they have the maturity and the differentiation and the health to be able to admit those things and to apologize, but then they do the things, which of course, you know, is the trauma. So it's a strength. That's what we say in the field, that they have their traumas and their issues and their personality disorder spectrum issues. And at the same time, they have some insight and some remorse. Or at least they can identify with their remorse in a way that other people don't necessarily identify with or express. And those two things can exist in the same person. They usually don't on the show. We usually just see one or the other. So we're seeing an interesting, Venn diagram right now. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. If you're anything like me, your relationships are very important to you. And really, most of the reason why I make content, and perhaps a lot of the reason why you're here with me today, is to think about your relationships. And evidence shows that strong attachments contribute to all sorts of positive outcomes, like improved well-being or happiness, lowered anxiety, lowered depression, better relationships with your kids. Now, one type of relationship that we're often talking about here is romantic relationships or soulmates. I would say that a huge factor in the success of my relationship with my wife has to do with all the therapy that I've been through. Well, one place you can find a therapist to help with that is at BetterHelp. If you're thinking of starting therapy, it's definitely worth giving a try. So become your own soulmate, whether you're looking for one or not. Visit betterhelp.com/Kirk today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Kirk.
Also trying to post videos of her in a bikini and stuff like that.
It's not just in a bikini, but she's like shaking her ass in a
Oh, and then they were talking about going to therapy, and they said that it's hard to get therapy, and that if you go to therapy in her town, then you're considered crazy, which, of course we could understand that would be the case. And then Kalani said that in Samoa, there's literally one clinician on the entire island, and that clinician only treats severely mentally ill people, which there's got to be a lot, percentage-wise, there's a number of people who suffer from psychosis and delusion and manic depression. So you have one clinician to service all those people. It's like, wow. So talk therapy isn't apparently an option. Then one of the other people said, well, there's online therapy, which is an option.
Her in a bikini and stuff like that.
It's not just in a bikini, but she's like shaking her ass in a sexual way on camera, to the camera, trying to get a lot of sexual attention.
Do these clips exist?
They're very provocative.
Yeah, I think we have a video right now. Let's see that.
So there's nothing wrong with it. He doesn't seem bothered with it. He said that there's a double standard because he's not allowed on social media. And maybe he's playing the long game because he's like, well, she's loosening up her control, and maybe in the future. I almost feel like people on the show assume that social media is some sort of important thing. For plenty of people, that they don't care. So he doesn't seem to care that much. And another thing that the mom did, actually, Brandon's mom, was she was adamant in defending the two of them. She was pointing out their issues while at the same time telling everyone in the room, like, no, you understand, they love each other, and I see a lot of strengths in both of them. I see a lot of goodness in Mary. It's just a rare occurrence where that would happen. You know, that almost never, ever happens, where people can hold on to both things. They have issues, and they mean well, and they're good people. You know, you can have both. It doesn't mean that you should stay together, but it just means that you recognize reality.
Wow.
She's shaking her ass on social media, but doesn't want Brandan to do anything.
Yeah, I think it's the double standard about him.
Yeah, she would not. If
I hope someone asks him how he feels, because he might be like, yeah, it's not the best, but I don't really mind. Let's hear what he says, because it's not, double standards aren't inherently wrong. We have to ask the individuals involved, and we have to be able to trust that they can search within themselves to find how they really feel about it.
If he was shaking his button in his Speedo, she would not tolerate that at all.
It's a dance. I'm not, like, a lot of people do that.
Yeah, but you're doing it, Mary, and you're this very controlling person towards your husband. So for you to do it and be that.
So that was interesting. She seems to be saying, and I don't know if it's true, that in her cultural pocket, that sort of dance isn't necessarily saying something. And of course, it never is necessarily saying something. Maybe to people that clutch their pearls, it's like, oh my God, it's so slutty, it's so suggestive. You're like asking people to have sex with you. I don't know what. It's like, it's just dancing. So maybe she's like, it's a dance. Just let it go. But I don't know. Maybe it does mean something. I don't know.
Because she felt like, oh, I'm dating an American man now. He has these American standards, and all these American girls do this, so I should do it too, right? And so she starts doing that. And I see it. I'm supportful of it. And I think, do whatever it is that you need to do to make yourself feel better.
Yeah, it seemed like he wasn't bothered. Sounds like he's totally okay with it, might even encourage it. It might not make sense to other people, but to them, it sounds like it's fine.
For Mary, I just want to say something. I believe that she's a manipulator.
Like you.
She can play victim.
You are the same character as Mary over here, only she's a female. She's a control.
I'm not.
It's so interesting to see Andre again. I feel like I haven't seen Andre in forever. Seems like a long time. Yeah. So they're chiming in. I don't know how accurate their take is. All right, so that's the end of season 5, 90 Day Fiancé the Other Way, in which I watched a couple that y'all voted for, which was Brandan and Mary. What I have to say about them, my final thoughts are that they have a lot of strengths in spite of all the traumas that they have been through. They have insight to some extent. They are willing to go to therapy, they talked about at the end. They are willing to feel their guilt and to express it to the other person. There was talk about them maybe coming to the States to get more support, which I don't know if that would necessarily help them. Hard to say. Could cause more problems. They seem to be getting better than they were before. The conflict is less. She's more trusting. She's less controlling. Hopefully his anger is going down. I don't know. It sounds pretty awful, honestly, and I feel bad for that young child, because even if things do improve, it's not likely to drastically improve over the next 5 years. So that child is going to incur some of the damage thereof, which is not a pleasant thought to think about. But like I said, a lot of strengths, a lot of insight, a lot of love, a lot of tenderness and goodness. So, I don't know. I guess, I don't know. But maybe this is what they need. Maybe this is the corrective experience that they need in order to feel like they are lovable, so that they can move on to the, steps in the future, so that they can recover more. It might be an unfortunate, but perhaps under the circumstances, the best scenario for them. You just wish they didn't have a kid so that they could wait on that, you know? There's no rush. They're super young. So I guess that's the one downside there. Yeah. But, you know, I don't know. It's possible that things will work out and the kid will grow up relatively unscathed or have the regular amount of issues that we all have. Maybe therapy will help maybe they'll get access. I don't know. What do you think? And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.